Park and Rec Commission to order. First thing on the agenda is roll call. Start with you, Craig.
Kimmy Porter.
Bruce Roman.
Dorothy Molstead.
Terry Millette.
Okay. Can we have an approval of the agenda, please?
I'll move for approval of the agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
We have an agenda. If you've had an opportunity to review the July minutes, can we have approval of that or any corrections or additions?
I'll call for approval of the minutes.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any comments on the minutes, or we're all in agreement that we're fine? All in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Okay. We're going to move on to new business, and before we do that, I want to take a moment to go on the record to thank Audra for the wonderful meeting we had last time. Great bus tour, great refreshments, good communication with people. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I know it's time-consuming and a lot of work, and so I just want to say a kudos and thank you very much for that. A new business?
Okay. Chair, members of the commission, the Capital Improvement Plan is an annually prepared document that coordinates the planning, financing, and timing of major equipment purchases and construction projects. And following presentations to the various commissions, the City Council will be asked to adopt the CIP at a City Council meeting. Adopting the CIP does not commit the council to the proposed projects nor implement the assumptions made during the preparation. This is, however, the basis for the 2020 budget as we continue its preparation. And we're lucky enough to have our Finance Director, Ellie Pulseth, here to talk to you about the CIP presentation. So with that, I will turn it over to Ellie.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commission and Audra. Tonight I have a PowerPoint, and you do have a copy of it in front of you. And I also have a copy of all of the park CIP projects that we'll discuss just very briefly. The PowerPoint is pretty much the same PowerPoint that was presented to the Planning Commission. So if it sounds a little bit like it's focused that way, that's because it really is virtually the same presentation. But we'll go through that rather quickly, and then we'll talk specifically about the projects related to park and recreation. Okay, so the Capital Improvement Plan workshop objectives for the Planning Commission were to ensure that all of the projects were in alignment with the comprehensive plan and all of the other planning processes and documents. For the Parks Commission, it's primarily informational in nature. You have no legal responsibility to do anything with the information. It's just designed to assist you with your planning for your park improvements. The Capital Improvement Plan process is kind of ongoing. It starts out every year with a capital needs identification between the council and the city staff. It then moves into a long-range strategic plan that the city council adopts, and at that point the staff looks for funding sources. When funding sources are identified, it goes into a proposed 5-year CIP plan, and each year, the first year of the 5 years then goes into the annual capital budget, which eventually gets adopted by the council. And once that's adopted, then the CIP is implemented. And in the next year, the capital needs identification starts all over again. So every year, a new 5-year plan is put into place, and sometimes the priorities change. Just quickly, I'll go over, it's important to note that there are not all of these projects are financed with tax dollars, so there are a number of other revenue sources. And I'll quickly go over each type of capital or improvement and discuss the various different funding sources. So for vehicles and equipment, the city tries to do as pay-as-you-go, so that means we levy enough taxes to pay for parks equipment, public works equipment, whatever might be needed on an annual basis. If it's a very, very large piece of equipment like a ladder truck, then we may do a tax-exempt lease. For building improvements, we have building funds that we've been building up with tax levy and with other revenue sources. If the building improvements are very large, like for instance, a new city hall or a new police department, debt would have to be issued in order to fund an improvement that large. The same goes for streets and infrastructure. Almost all of our streets and infrastructure involve debt of some sort. The City Council has an aggressive campaign to lower the amount of debt, so we have identified a number of other financing sources for the streets and infrastructure, including franchise fees on gas and electric bills, local government aid, and also property taxes. All of those things are going into to finance streets to help lower the amount of debt. For park improvements, it's typically park dedication fees. There's also a small amount of property taxes that goes into, playground improvements and things like that. That's really kind of listed under equipment, so it's not here. And also debt, and we'll discuss that in a little bit for the larger projects. And for redevelopment, it's primarily tax increment financing, which also includes issuing tax increment debt. So the capital improvement plan is developed with utilizing council priorities that come from strategic planning sessions. One of their biggest priorities is debt reduction. So that's one of the underlying principles that is the foundation of our capital improvement plan. They also have a strong desire to enhance our street improvement program. So we've come up with a program that leverages other revenue sources, including local government aid, to use for street improvements to alleviate the amount of debt that's being issued. So whenever possible, we're moving to a pay-as-you-go system for our capital needs. Sustainability is one of the primary principles that is considered when we decide the type of financing source. For instance, the past practice of issuing debt for all of the street improvements just wasn't sustainable, so we looked for other revenue sources to help fund those infrastructure improvements. And the City Council is also interested in economic development, but there's really a balance between all of this. If debt reduction is a primary goal, everything else has to somehow balance out. So the timeline after this, the City Council will have a hearing on December 9th, and then it will be adopted after the hearing on December 9th, the plan. The reason that we have a capital improvement plan is that it is a planning document. And we do our planning for 10 years, but we only publish 5 years of planning. It doesn't authorize each expenditure until the council approves each item. It is simply a planning document. It's also required in order for the city to issue certain types of debt for capital improvement debt. Just very briefly, these numbers have been tweaked ever so slightly, but roughly $69 to $70 million is in this 5-year plan. You can see that most of it is streets, $47 million, and there's a large amount in buildings, $7.9 million, and the reason for that is because there is a new fire hall being planned for 2020 and into 2021 possibly. So that's the reason for that. And equipment, there is a large ladder truck in 2022 and a number of other both parks maintenance and public works maintenance types of equipment. For parks improvement, you can see that there's a total of $5.2 million. So that is a combination of park dedication money from the Park Dedication Fund that's collected from developers. A small amount of it is tax dollars. In the years 2022 and 2024, there's $1 million. The projects haven't completely been identified yet, but I believe the staff will be bringing that forward in those years. And that funding source will be coming from debt. The City Council has agreed to ensure that at least $5 million goes into improvements per year into the park system, as recommended by the Parks Master Plan, I believe it is. So that is their way of ensuring that that happens. And in this particular case, because of the priorities with some of the road improvements, it happens that the improvements are scheduled for 2022 and 2024, coming from debt. The remainder of the improvements are in various other years. And so that is primarily, and I believe, 2022 and 2024 is the years that we're issuing debt. And so there is a large project as well in 2020, and that is mostly from park dedication fees. Just very quickly, some of the major factors that impacted this year's five-year CIP is the City Council was very concerned about the condition of the roads. As well, they were concerned about the level of debt. So we put together a plan where we're dedicating a considerable amount of state aid that the city is receiving for road improvement. This is a little bit deeper than I will go into tonight, but it's a specific funding source that we'll be receiving in the next 5 years, and so it won't be available forever. We're also dedicating $4.1 million in local government aid in this 5-year CIP, and then additional franchise fee revenue that the City Council agreed to raise the franchise fee. So that added up to $10 million that will be put into the street program in the 5-year CIP. So we really hope to see a major impact in our streets in this first 5 years of this CIP. Of course, it does limit the local government aid and some of these other revenue sources for being used for things like park improvements or equipment, but this was what the City Council decided, is that they really wanted to emphasize roads and streets in this CIP. So a considerable amount, an increase of over 4 miles more than what was previously done. With this new 10 million, we were able to increase and also add a spot paving program. So $80,000 a year went into the spot paving program where some of the streets that are not on that are in poor condition but aren't on the list, maybe for another 5 years, they're able to go out there and do. There's a picture of it there, where they're able to go out and do kind of a very thin type of overlay that they call spot paving, and so that already is in practice in 2019. So you should be seeing some improvements around the city in the road conditions immediately. Some of the road projects, major road projects that are happening in 2020 are these 3 areas: the Dennis McClelland area, the Schaller area, and Arcade and County Road B. And so that project got accelerated due to the XL gas main that is going in, as you've all noticed. So that project actually got accelerated. So that caused us to have to move some things around in the CIP because it resulted in more debt being issued in 2020 than what had originally been planned. So we had to reshuffle some things. That was due to simply it made sense as long as the road was being dug up and the road needed to be repaired to move it up a little bit. And so it's going to be done at the same time in order to be more efficient and save more money in the long run. And that, again, is we were able to do that because the CIP process is fairly flexible. 5.9 miles in 2020 is what's happening. So again, for the Planning Commission, their decision was, whether or not the projects conformed, and they did approve this. And so you don't have a decision to make other than to work with your, to look at these parks projects and work with your staff on those. So if there, I will just quickly go through the other handout that has the projects, and if there are any questions, I'd certainly be happy to take them. So the handout that has a title sheet called Projects by Department. So those are the Parks and Recreation projects for the next 5 years. It's 5.5 million roughly, and that includes some upgrades to the existing parks. So that's, I would want to point out the first thing that, the first item on the list, those upgrades, those are financed by city tax dollars. Most of the rest of these improvements are financed with park development funds, with the exception of about midway down the list where it says park maintenance and reinvestment. And that's where you can see the $1 million in 2022 and 2024 that the City Council is going to provide for bonding. And those projects have not yet been identified, but that's what you will be working with the park staff on, is identifying the priorities and needs in the park system. The rest of these projects have been in the CIP, a lot of them for a number of years. Open space improvements, Goodrich Park, Harvest Park, Fish Creek Open Space, Maplewood Nature Center improvements, picnic shelters, Hazelwood Park, and Vista Hills Court. Those are all things that are coming up. The first column in 2020 is what's on the docket for the next budget year. The City Council will be approving a budget that includes these projects and includes a tax levy for $120,000 for the upgrades to the parks. So that's $1.3 million for 2020. So each of those projects then in order is attached, and there's a detailed sheet that tells a little bit more about each of those projects and the funding sources and maintenance costs and that type of thing. So you will be able to review those. And again, the $1 million projects in 2022 and 2024 is more of a what we would call a placeholder right now, because that is going to be determined by the park board and the park staff in those years. So I don't believe I have anything more to offer. Unless you would have questions, I'd certainly be happy to answer.
Okay, questions?
So on this plan here where it shows in 2020 Goodrich Park and it shows Maplewood Nature Center and Hazelwood Park, are those the only things that we're going to be able to make improvements on during 2020?
Madam Chair and Commission, in 2020, there is park upgrades to the existing parks, and I believe those will be playground improvements, open space, Goodrich Park, Maplewood Nature Center, and Hazelwood Park. So those 5 items, and they are listed in the detail sheets that are attached. So those are the items that, and I think Audra has something to add.
Yep. Chair, members of the commission, too, just to note, the $120,000 that's in there to park upgrades to existing parks, that was always a standard $100,000. That was actually increased by $20,000 just so that we can maybe do a few more things when we're replacing the playgrounds and hopefully do some more accessible features at every playground that we replace, because whenever you add those features, like at the Wakefield playground, you know, that was a $250,000 playground to get the features that we wanted. So even in these little neighborhood parks, we're making a conscious effort to make them as accessible as we can, and so that was an increase. So it's $20,000 more allotted for that line item. Just wanted to note that we did increase that.
That is correct. It was $100,000 in tax dollars for many years, and so it was time to take a look at that again, and so it was increased by the City Council to $120,000.
Great.
The $1 million in 2022 and 2024, those have already been approved by the council, and
The draft capital improvement plan has been approved by the Planning Commission, and it is received preliminary approval from the City Council. The City Council will be giving it final approval in December. So we
Okay.
expect that this will be approved as presented.
Then another, I guess, how many miles of road are there in Maplewood? I'm just,
Between 130 and 140, yeah. So it's a significant, but we feel very good about the new funding sources that, we have allocated the local government aid, and the city council has authorized the increase in the franchise fees. And so we also had some unexpected money coming from the state, and so we feel pretty good about adding the 10 million. It really got the program started off to a good start, and we feel like we'll be reaching a point where we have some other plans as well. Eventually, we will be not borrowing money for streets, and that might take 10, 12, 13, 14 years to happen, but eventually, that's where we hope to get.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much for your very comprehensive presentation.
Thank you for making time on your agenda tonight.
Our next new business is Park and Recreation Planning Programming Presentation. I can't even read.
Okay, sorry, Chair, members of the commission. Tonight we have Neil Brenneman, our Recreation Supervisor, and Josh Abraham, our Recreation Coordinator. I think most of you got to know them even better on the parks tour that we took last month, but they are here to give you a comprehensive recreation programming update on all the great things that were happening, maybe some things that are coming up, what's been going on with the Wakefield Park Community Building, and then they'll stand for any questions you might have about programs and things that we're doing. So with that, I'll turn it over to Neil Brenneman.
Chair, members of the commission, thanks for having us, and I'm kind of excited to be able to give you a little bit of kind of what we've been doing this year and kind of our moving forward plan and some new things we're looking at and just kind of keeping up with everything. So this first portion here is just kind of an overview of our department events from 2019. Most of these are a regular yearly kind of occurrence, and it goes kind of top down from beginning of the year through the end of the year. Parks cleanup and the egg hunt can flip-flop depending on the day of the egg hunt specifically and the weather. But last year we had, for the parks cleanup, we actually had a couple of our soccer clubs and some of our groups that regularly use the parks stop in and grab stuff, and they kind of picked out, their parks they usually use for rentals and games and practices, and kind of took those parks on for themselves, which is kind of nice. And we're kind of pushing that out again, and for kind of our regular field users and park users as a way for them to have an opportunity to kind of give back to the park too that they use as well. Our egg hunt, awesome kind of way to kick off the special events season for each year. It's well attended, 400 or 500 people with kids and parents and grandparents and relatives come out. We do whenever possible our outdoor egg hunt. The last couple of years, last year we got outdoors again, but we had a couple of years there where we had to do it inside and just have fun and play games and adjust as needed. We get do the egg hunt outside, split them in a couple groups. We use our Edgerton Community Gym for that, and always have the Easter Bunny visit and photo opportunities. So that's kind of the first one we kick off, and then go through a season of other special events. I'll kind of skip over a couple and just kind of highlight a few of them. We have a Mother's Day bowling event. This past year we had the Wakefield Grand Opening event. And the movie nights we have movie nights at the farm. We previously had them at Wakefield, and during the construction and stuff, we moved them to the farm. And it's actually been a really nice place to have the movies. We've been able to do it under some rainy circumstances in the barn too. So it's been a nice partnership there to be able to have the movie events there. And we have the petting zoo and everything there. We've had average probably around 400 people that show up for those events as well. Not everybody gets to stay for the movies or fit into the barn for movies, but we have other activities, games, jump castle, crazy hair, just different stations for everyone to attend. And it's been those are really fun. We get everybody involved too with voting for the movie that they get to see. So we do that on our social media pages, and they can vote for some of the movies that they want to see as well. The 4th of July, I think, kind of speaks for itself. It's at Hazelwood, and it is a long day, but it's a lot of fun, and it gets, the next thing you know, it's done. But there's 10,000 plus people that come through all the parks for different things, and we had, other than a few sprinkles last year, kind of right in the beginning, it worked out. It worked out well. The weather held off for us, which was good. That's always a question mark when doing some special events outside. So we like to get the nice weather when we can. The next couple, we have celebrate summer events every year, and we do 3 of those: one in June, one in July, and one in August. Those are kind of our big kind of regular outreach events that we have for the community. We go through, I think this year we went through 720 to 800 hot dogs at each event, and that's along with 800 chips and 1,000 waters, and all free. So it's an awesome way to community comes out, and each one has its own different theme, whether it's challenging a challenge event, touch a truck, and then just an end of summer celebration where you just a bunch of games, inflatables, and everyone comes and has a good time. So those are a lot of fun. Also, a lot of work behind the scenes, but it's seeing everybody come out and having all the kids having fun and families together. It's a lot of fun. So those are kind of we do 3 of those, like I said, each year. We worked with the public safety department this year and we did 4 kind of worked with them in providing the jump castle and some activities for 4 of their events, and working with them again for the events for next year, kind of getting them on the calendar and being able to provide our portion to those events as well, and they provide their portion to our events. So it's a good way to work together with interdepartmentally. And we have the rec run is actually next Saturday, the 28th. That one specifically, it's a fun, another fun family event. We have all the proceeds from that benefit the Youth Scholarship Fund. So that's one of our goals is to kind of push the exposure for that event, and everything that comes in after we pay for the racers' shirts and things like that all go to the Youth Scholarship Fund. So, and we work with in that event specifically work with a couple of companies that we do a lot of stuff with throughout the year. Our medals guy and the guy that does our shirts and stuff, and they provide the medals or give us a discount on the shirts and stuff for this event, just to kind of help out with providing some of that money to the scholarship fund. So it's a kind of a nice way for them to give back to the community as well. Last year we did our Boo Bash fall event was at the Broom Trip Farm. We worked with the Historical Society and Nature Center, and we all we did an event there and partnered together, and it was the attendance was beyond expectation. It was crazy. We had probably 700 people that came through, and it was awesome, but it was kind of crazy. So we're excited for it this year, kind of knowing what to expect, and it's, of course, who doesn't like seeing little kids running around in costumes? So that one was a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it. Like I said, another big one this year. So we have music in the barn, and that's spring or fall, kind of depending on schedule availability of the barn. That's also at the farm as well. And we kind of wrap up our big special events with the Santa's Workshop Party every year in December, activities and Christmas stories, and they get a chance to sit with Santa and tell them what they want and everything. So a lot of fun. Those are kind of our main ones. Obviously we do other stuff, other events and things throughout the year too, but those are some of the big ones that we just kind of wanted to touch on, and for those that have the opportunity, it's a lot of fun to see in action. So kind of an update for the kind of some of the rec programs that I oversee. We have just recently completed in the throughout the summer, pretty much. We had T-ball, youth baseball, softball leagues, and we just finished up our summer session of Beanbags League actually yesterday. And the T-ball is kind of the one I wanted to kind of just focus on a little bit on here. We had, for the third straight year, the numbers went up. It's, we had a wait list, and next year we're looking at adding some additional time slots to be able to accommodate some of the other, some of the additional kids that we had apply for it. So we had 142 kids for this summer session, which was, it was a lot. And we work, and I'll kind of touch on this a bit, but we've kind of partnered with Little Sluggers of St. Paul. They provide some field instruction to help the volunteer T-ball coaches as well, and that's been a huge, we've gotten some huge positive feedback from that, which I think is a positive step in kind of keeping people continuing to come back for that program. So we got some kind of, the upcoming ones we have here is adult softball, our fall league just started within the last couple weeks, and volleyball, adult volleyball will be starting next week. Youth flag football league, our fall soccer league got underway 2 weeks ago now, and so we're kind of just hitting the middle of that. And we actually partner with our soccer club, and the next one I'll talk a little bit more about some of those partnerships that we're doing with programming and kind of leveraging other communities or other organizations' expertise to make the programs as best we can. Our intro to basketball, and then after that is our youth and senior high basketball leagues. And you kind of see there's a lot of progression of our programs here, and that's when we're trying to be able to offer everything from starting at 2 years up all the way through middle school and on, to try to keep them involved in the program. So we have T-ball, we have our preschool baseball clinic, and then T-ball, and then youth baseball. So kind of a progression that we with all the programs that we like to do. Some new programs and ideas that I've been kind of looking at and seeing some things other communities are doing that we're looking to offer, especially with some of the new programming space we have available at Wakefield. Some 5v5 or 5x5x5 adult softball. We've been, kind of all the communities are seeing an issue with adult softball registration, just team registrations. And so one of the things I've been trying to do the last couple of years is just offer something, tweaking the offerings or offering something different, kickball, which, we're, working on getting, somebody's got to try stuff and see what we can do to offer different programs that maybe aren't, to kind of backfill some of the programs that maybe aren't continuing to grow. And we'll be doing at the Wakefield building ballroom dance and guitar lessons, and then also working on a conversational Spanish class, just kind of a general kind of overview of just conversational Spanish, I guess. Pretty self-explanatory, I guess. So it's, yearly we're just trying to continue to offer new ideas, brainstorm ideas, and figure out the best way we can offer programs and events to our community.
Can I ask a question in the middle here? As I recall, we've got some of our tennis courts that we're repairing, revising, and they're also going to have pickleball markings on it. And in your new ideas and programs, not that I'm a pickleball player, but I know people are interested in that, so.
Noted, yes, Chair, and we have.
Please note.
We that is something that we have had some feedback on too, and that's something we'll be looking. We did offer in the past some indoor pickleball lessons at the community center, so now being able to. I offered a few years back a pickleball league outside at Maplewood Heights, and had some traction, but we didn't get a ton. But I know there is. It's taken off, so it's something we'll be looking at as well. So some of it this one's kind of an overview or just kind of a quick synopsis of some of the partnerships and collaborations that we're doing with the programming, and then some other ones that we're, again, exploring some new ones to try to offer continue to offer programs and maximize some of the programs and space that we have. The Little Sluggers one's has been awesome for us. So we started with them a couple years, 3 years ago with the T-ball program, and we've expanded it to include our preschool baseball clinic, and that's we've seen, the preschool baseball clinic. There's 40 kids at every session, 2 sessions, and that's 2 and 3 year olds and 4 and 5 year olds, and they have a blast and they do an excellent job, and we're seeing them continue right up into the T-ball, which is awesome. Northeast United Soccer, they utilize Hazelwood for kind of their home site, and we've been working really well with them the last few years, just partnering in our fall rec league and then the starter clinics for the really younger kids. It's a beneficial partnership for both of us. We get some of their expertise, some of their coaches coming out and offering coaching clinics to our parent volunteer coaches, running skills clinics for the league participants, all an additional free for the participants. So it's a big plus for us. And then we partner with surrounding cities for many programs: adult kickball, youth baseball, volleyball, softball, and basketball leagues, senior high basketball. And some of the new kind of partnership explorations we're discussing now is I had some kind of initial conversation with the North St. Paul Baseball Association, and just kind of an example of some of the things we're looking to do to increase exposure and increase the just get the word out there. Is, cross-promoting our rec program and their traveling program. They don't offer a rec program, and we don't offer a traveling program, and it's right next door, and being able to just work together and cross-promote our programs and not leave people high and dry if they're looking for a program to participate in, and just because one of us doesn't offer it. And then kind of touching a little bit on the adult softball and changing some of the things we're offering there is, that we're in kind of discussions now with White Bear Lake and North St. Paul for their adult softball as well, specifically targeting the co-rec and women's leagues to combine them and make sure, try to get us on the same page with dates and fees and rules that we can join leagues, just to be able to keep, if we each get a few teams and we're able to keep them in and play rather than having to send them away or refund them. So that's one of the things that a lot of communities are running into, is having to partner together to keep the leagues healthy and thriving and keep the teams being able to play and players being able to play as well. That rolls into some of our youth leagues also, but specifically there's a couple of the new ones we're looking at now. And the whole idea is just trying to think outside the box and trying to find ways to sustain programming and keep things moving forward and being able to, like I said, leverage the partnerships and the community organizations that we have. This kind of I'm sure you probably have seen this picture, but it's Wakefield, the skating rink, and it was a drone photo, and Josh will give you a little bit more kind of background on the skating rinks and stuff, but it's pretty cool to see it from that angle, so I got to throw that in there anyways. But I'm going to skip over the warming houses and the community gyms, and I'll have Josh talk about that because he runs those. But our field rentals, pretty similar to the year before. We've had in 2018 we had 669 paid field rentals, whether it was baseball, softball, soccer, rugby, hurling, all kinds of things, and all different parks. And that doesn't include the practices that we don't, that are used as well. But we put together new applications for tournament requests or large group requests, and just continue to tweak that to being able to provide a smooth and efficient application process and permit process for people looking to use the fields. And that way we're able to, hopefully know as many users as possible for, if we have to close them or anything like that based on weather, just making it easier for people to schedule and reserve fields, or at least the process of applying for a permit. And one of the things we did this year at Hazelwood, we rested 2 fields, and for those that I think everybody knows that when we were at the field, there was a couple that weren't being used. And it was very successful. We were already able to open one of the fields that we had closed and started work on the parks crew started work on another. They shut down another field and started work on that one so we can get kind of ahead of the game for next year. And so the next couple of years we'll be rotating the fields, just doing the same thing, reseeding them, getting them back to kind of back, to nice, everything grassed in there. So that was one of the things we're able to do, is especially with the weather being cooler, quicker, and not snowing right away, is able to get the seed down and start work on that. So just every year is just continuing to be able to try to accommodate as many rentals as we hit. I did turn away some for Hazelwood this year, just specifically for the field load that we have had. So that's all I have. I'll turn it over to Josh, and he can kind of give you a rundown on his programs in the Wakefield building and some other stuff.
I have a couple questions. So you say your T-ball numbers are up. I mean, for quite some time, I thought our baseball numbers have been going down. What do you attribute that to?
I made some tweaks to the program the first year, and sometimes it's kind of, I send out a survey asking why people, what they thought about the T-ball program, or what some changes they wanted to see, or just to get some feedback. And from that feedback, we made a few changes the first year. Numbers went up, and then solicited feedback again after that year. Tweaked a few more things from that feedback, and from then it's been it's like I said, it's been 3 years in a row now where almost to the highest point we had was 150, 152 maybe in the past. So we're hopefully we'll be able to, would have been able to hit that this year if we had that extra time frame, but that's not the case necessarily. And hopefully moving that into the baseball program, this year was our second year offering baseball through the Parks and Recreation umbrella. Was previously MAA, and being able to hopefully funnel those kids into the baseball program is the goal. But like I said, just the big thing I try to do is solicit feedback and kind of see where where we can make improvements, or sometimes that's not the case, but that's one of the big things I like to do.
How does 5v5 softball work?
Good question. It's 5 on the, so if you don't have 10 people or 12 people, you want to get a team together, that's kind of a new way to play, but still with a smaller group. You have 5 players on your team. There's 3 teams that play against each other at the same time. 5 on the infield, 5 in the outfield, and 5 hitting. And everyone plays against each other, and then whichever of the 3 teams has the highest score afterwards, they win. So it's a way to play softball, but you don't have to have 15 players, and a lot less problems with the manager having to harangue everybody for money and stuff. So.
On the, I didn't see any lacrosse. Are we doing any lacrosse, or?
Yeah, Commission, good question. Josh actually he can speak to that when he comes up too. Yeah, that was a partnership we're working on with Homegrown Lacrosse. We have offered in the past lacrosse clinics, and finding an instructor was for that program along with gymnastics. Seems to be, can be difficult to do, so we've been, actually our rugby, one of the groups that rents a rugby field works with a guy with the lacrosse group that he kind of sent our way. So we're working together and trying to get get that up and running again, so. Any other questions? Well, thank you, Chair, Commission members, for your time. Josh, come on.
Good evening, Chair, Commission members. Josh Abraham, Recreation Coordinator. Touch on some of our facilities, stuff that I oversee. During the winter months, oversee 4 warming house locations: Afton Heights, Four Seasons, Gethsemane, and Wakefield. With 3 of those, we staff at 21 hours weekly, 3 hours each day or evening. Weekdays, it's in the evening, weekends during the day. Wakefield, we do the same, but we, like last year, we are offering extended hours on the weekends to try to get people out there to utilize, the new rink and so forth. Plus, it's a larger rink than most of the other ones that we have in the city, so it has a lot more activity and so forth at it. I also coordinate the rentals and staffing of our 2 community gyms. One is down at Carver Elementary, and the other is at Edgerton Elementary. So that's agreements that we have with Independent School District 622 and 623. At these gyms, we run our youth and adult sports leagues. We run sports clinics. We have special events that take place there as well. We do also have local youth athletic organizations rent space within those gyms as well on times that we might not be using them, such as a number of the local JO volleyball organizations, basketball organizations, and we do have a number of people from the community rent out the gyms for birthday parties as well. So I'll touch base on some of the youth programming that I oversee. One that's going to start coming up and that we do over the winter is Jam the Gym. And for that, we have staff, bounce house activities, stuff planned for the kids. We do it on Friday evenings, try to do about one every month. And basically it's 2 hours. The parents can drop off their kids and they can participate in any of the activities, whether it's playing basketball, bounce house, tattoos, coloring, dancing, and utilizing the gym area there. Preschool Gymboree, that one takes place at the Maplewood Community Center. That will be starting up at the end of October and running through April. For that one, we do it on Thursday mornings from 10 to 11:30, and basically we provide toys, the bounce house, different activities and stuff for preschool age kids to come, with their parents and partake and interact and, socialize and have a good time during the cold months when kids can't really get outside or they don't have a lot of space possibly to run around inside. I oversee a number of the sports clinics, ranging from floor hockey, basketball, baseball, soccer. As Neil had mentioned, and Commissioner Brennan, you had mentioned too, lacrosse. We are in the works with communicating with Homegrown Lacrosse on finding a time that works with, available space over the winter and, with their staff and organization to provide, a lacrosse clinic over the winter, and then hopefully, transition that into maybe more of a week-long summer camp type deal and so forth, where they have the expertise, they have the equipment and so forth, which a lot of times with that sport, with it being relatively new and pretty specialized, it is hard to find instructors through the normal hiring process. So with an organization like this that wants to grow the game and wants to get the game and has those connections, it's helpful in that with being able to offer that type of a new program. I do oversee the spring and fall starter soccer program, which is going on right now, even this evening over at Hazelwood. We've had consistent numbers for that program for both the spring and fall sessions, ranging anywhere from about 150, 160 to our max at about 180, just with space and number of teams and time slots and so forth. We also run youth floor hockey league during spring. Gives the kids a chance to, learn the sport of hockey and, give them some game activities and so forth that they're able to do. We do that at the Edgerton Community Gym Saturday mornings. Youth Volleyball League is just getting underway. The teams are having their practices. That's another one of those leagues and partnerships that we have with a number of the surrounding neighborhood areas. White Bear Lake has teams, Stillwater has teams in the league, Oakdale has teams in the league, Little Canada has teams in the league as well. So we coordinate all the scheduling and so forth for that, for games. Then that takes place down at Carver Elementary on Saturdays, and with that, they end with an end-of-season tournament, and that where the teams get to play each other, and get first, second, third place medals for the teams. We did Ninja Warrior camps again this summer. We partnered with Concord Ninja Warrior over in Woodbury. They run summer camps at their training facility there for kids, and so we sign them up through us, and we provide transportation out to Woodbury so the kids can partake in their summer camps as well. So a lot of it is exactly what you see if you watch the show on NBC, and the kids love that. Karate takes place at the Maplewood Community Center. We've had the consistent numbers of that with the instruction partnership with the Edge Martial Arts, and tumbling and gymnastics as well. And with Wakefield and the space there, we've looked at and have added a preschool art program classes where we've partnered with Kid Create, and the first class was actually this last Tuesday. So they provide instructors to come out and do art projects with the kids and so forth. So we're running, starting out with 4 days of that session-wise. So over the next 3 weeks, they'll be out there again, and we'll be running another one starting up in October as well. And then we're also have STEM classes that we'll be having out there too, and those range for ages kids, 3 to 14, 15 or so, and ranging from, building rockets to, creating slime, putty. One of the ones is fossil dino dig exploration thing. So we have those that will be starting out there too as well coming up. I also oversee the adult day trips for actively aging adults and programs. So generally we try to do 2 trips every month, and most of them are to dinner theaters, but we've been looking at new ones too of going to. So we go out to the Old Log Theater, Day Trippers Dinner Theater, Chanhassen Dinner Theater, which has been very popular with Mamma Mia. That has sold out very quickly every time we've opened up one of those. We've gone to a couple St. Paul Saints games. We'll be going to Taylor Falls tomorrow and the next couple of weeks to do their Leaf Lunch Cruise. And a new program that we'll be offering with the space available at Wakefield is a pastries and painting, where we have instructor coming in, and it's based off of those wine and paint classes that have kind of become popular. So we're offering it in the morning, and we'll have coffee and donuts and muffins and so forth. So have some social interaction, and then a couple of the paintings that will be coming up is the iconic cherry spoon, Stone Arch Bridge, and then they'll be doing a lake scene as well. And for that being a first-time offering, we've had pretty good numbers sign up for that. So it's definitely something that we'll be looking at continuing to do in the future. Now to touch base on the new Wakefield Park community building, with the building finally opening up this spring, it's provided us a new space for programming. It's given us new avenues that we might not have had with the facilities that we had before that. We do offer the building for community rentals. We've seen a lot of wedding and baby showers there. In the spring, we had graduation parties, family gatherings, and we've had quite a few celebrations of life. And, since opening, the building has been rented out basically almost every single weekend, and with at least one rental, and about 3/4 of those have been both Saturday and Sunday rentals of community members and people around the community renting the building for their needs, their celebrations, and so forth. And with the building too, we do provide staffing there. So our staff does all the setup, takedown of the tables and so forth, the cleaning and everything, and getting everything ready and that for the rentals and even our programs as well. Our staff range from, young adults where it might be their first job to, even older adults. A number of the people who do work there do live right in that community. Got about 3 of my staff live within a couple blocks from there, and a number of them were very excited about, the building coming up and, being able to, have this part-time job and be able to, give something back to their community as well for that. And some of the programming that is offered that we do out of there is, as I mentioned, the preschool art classes, the STEM classes. Our dance classes are there Mondays and Tuesday nights. We'll be having ballroom dancing classes there, and guitar lessons will be there, and the pastries and painting as well. And that's all that I have for this evening. If the commission has any questions, be free to answer them.
On the Jam the Gyms and the preschool jamboree, what age?
So Jam the Gym is K through 5, or K through 5th grade. So that 5 to 10-year-olds range. And then the preschool jamboree, we do basically from 6 months or wherever the parent feels comfortable of, bringing their child there, up to 5 years old or so, kind of that transition before they actually are in elementary school.
Okay.
Any other questions?
The STEM classes, I didn't catch where you had, or where you get your instructors and?
Yep. Yeah, so that's through Fun Science America. It's a local Twin Cities organization that provides STEM classes. A lot of the stuff they do, they go into the schools and do it, but they also do these types of programs as well for Parks and Recreation.
Well, thank you both for your presentation and for all the wonderful programming you're providing for the citizens of Maplewood.
Thanks, Josh.
Do we have any unfinished business, Audra? No. Any visitor presentations? Commission presentations? We do have a couple of staff presentations. Audra?
I'll get my pictures in just a second, but I wanted to give you just a couple quick updates. I didn't do all the events because they've covered that, and as you said, there's a ton of things that happen and are coming up, but I wanted to give you an update on the Sherwood Park tennis courts. They are finished officially as of Monday, and I've got a picture here. I don't know if you can see if I can, but if I could make it any larger than that, but that was just taken today. And it's hard to see from this photo, but if you look on your monitor, those bright yellow lines for Dorothy, those are the pickleball lines.
I'm going to have to learn how to play pickleball.
Yeah,
I
and
know.
the nice thing is some of the courts, they do that blue-green color combination on a lot of tennis courts, but it's more muted, and then the pickleball lines tend to be white and they're harder to see. So with this color scheme, they ask, and I said, make them as bright as possible. So with the yellow, it really makes the pickleball dimension stand out. So we're excited. So this is the best tennis courts in Maplewood currently. And they're at Sherwood Park, just down the street.
Does pickleball have the same height of a net as tennis?
The nets are different, and again, the reason we wanted to put these on, some people modify play and use the tennis nets that are there, but we're hoping to purchase some other pickleball nets so if we do start, as Neil mentioned, a pickleball league or some kind of thing, that we can switch out the nets for programming. So it's the best until we can have courts that are just for pickleball. This is the best of both worlds that we have. So we're excited that this is done, and they'll be doing the same thing at Vista shortly. That's what you saw on the CIP, Vista Hills. It'll be this and the tennis court. So on the tour, we went down and saw how dilapidated they are. They will look like this. So we're excited.
My pickleball playing neighbor will be thrilled.
Are they on both courts? The lines?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we just made the decision that whenever we resurface or redo the courts, we'll always be adding the pickleball lines to any tennis court that we have, so we get more use out of them. So. There's one other. Need to share. The Nature Center. The Nature Center turns 40. They're having a big celebration on Saturday. So it has been 40 years since the Nature Center started, and they're having this big celebration. One neat thing we're hoping happens is Senator Chuck Uygur asked the state senate to issue a proclamation celebrating the Nature Center. So if that passes, he's actually going to come to the celebration on Saturday. He'll be there anyway, but he'll come and issue the proclamation to the staff. So we're hoping that passes. And in the meantime, they've been recording some stories from people who were there from the beginning, staff, volunteers. I don't know, Dorothy, maybe did you do any of the stories? Okay. Yeah, but they're sharing stories, and they've made some videos, so they'll be available on the city's YouTube channel, and then we'll have those videos playing. And when they're finished, I think they're creating 3 of them. I'll bring them so that you can see them, but they're pretty neat, because originally that space, they were looking at turning it into ball fields, and then people spoke up and said, we need to preserve this as a natural space, and then it ended up being the Nature Center instead, but the original idea was just to make it some ball fields, so just interesting things like that. So come out Saturday if you've got some time from 1 to 3 or 1 to 3:30, and join them to celebrate the Nature Center. And the road is finished, so you can drive. You don't have to go through all the barriers. You can actually get there, so that's really all I had. Any other questions about anything tonight or for me?
Anything else? Oh, we're going to make it. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
Second? All those in
All
favor?
right, thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.